I'd like to call to order the Town of Willington Inland Wetland and Watercourse Commission today, July 22nd, 2024. The time is now 7:31. First up on the agenda, call to order, roll call. All seating commissioners are here and present. There are no alternates to seat. There are no current applications to be received. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from June 24th, 2024. I've had a chance to review these. If any of the other commissioners have not had a chance, please review those and let us know when you're done with any changes so we can approve those with changes or as is.
Hey, Mike, I don't have those in my packet. Is it possible to put those up on the screen, please?
Yep, I can do that.
Peggy did send those in an email
Yeah,
this afternoon.
this afternoon. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with some of the emails coming through to the wrong address. Thank you.
And in that packet as well was some additional information for an application on the agenda for tonight.
Could you scroll down, please, Mike? Thank you. Again. All right. All right. All right. Thank you, Michael.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 24th as submitted.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up on the agenda is a public hearing. We have no public hearings at the moment on the board. So next is new business. Inland Wetlands Application 24-6, construction of a single-family dwelling with wetland disturbance at 85 Moose Meadow Road, map block lot 26-004-0A, owner applicant F. McNutt. Is there anyone here to speak to the application?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Good evening. I'm Bruce Woodis with Archer Surveying and KWP Associates. We are the surveyors and engineers who prepared this new plan for Florence McNutt, who is also here by Zoom as the applicant. As most of you know, this property went through the wetlands approval process back in 1997 for a different owner and applicant, and although they got their wetlands approval and they got zoning approval and everything they needed, they never constructed their house. At any rate, so fast forward to current time. Florence McNutt has purchased the property and wishes to build a house for herself. And what we've done is we've essentially reproduced almost the exact same development scheme as was done in 1997. The house is in the same place. The septic is in the same location. The driveway is in the same location. It's essentially as close to being the same application as what was previously approved 25 years ago. It is a rather tight site in terms of limited buildable area. Some of that is created by the drainage way, which crosses the property and carries surface drainage from the town road culverts. First straight out into the property, and then it turns left and goes across the property. It's quite likely that the 15-foot wide or so wetlands strip that goes through there was probably created by water running through there for decades now. And so that in itself is not what I would call a significant wetlands. And what we've done is we've tried to take the water and extend the pipe that's underneath the existing driveway further out to carry it away from the house and yard area. It does create the filling of some wetlands, but none of the major wetlands that's adjacent to the south and then towards the Fenton River swamp side are being disturbed. We're staying away from them and out of them. Some things that are worthy of note is the septic system that's portrayed on this current site plan is a new septic system design that's quite different from the old design. This one is a Mantis double wide system. So anybody that knows development, that's a very modern type of septic system, very efficient, and uses much less space for the septic system than a traditional septic system. A traditional trench system would have you'd have a factor of 3 in terms of your ability to spread your effluent, whereas a double wide mantis is 20. So it is quite a bit more efficient and quite a space saver. And we've used that in an effort to reduce any potential impacts or spread of the development of the property. That's a brief overview. I know that there were some questions raised about the septic system from the minutes that I read. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about anything else related to the development.
Okay, I guess we're to a point, Mike, where there was some correspondence about this application that probably needs to be entered into the minutes and into the record. This was from Mr. Toulis on July 11th, 2024. Is this how we do it, Mike? And then
Sure.
we'll go over the information.
Sure.
So we have that. And there was a site plan markup as well that needs to be entered into the record that accompanied the email.
Patrick, excuse me, just to speak to that, I trust that Mr. Wood has had an opportunity to look at that markup to make sure that he's in substantial agreement with my not diagnosis, but review of the site plan.
Yeah, yes, I have reviewed it, and it is, I think, substantially correct.
So I wasn't attempting to introduce any new information. What I was attempting to do was just to highlight the major impacts and major features of the site plan as it was presented to us.
All right, well, now's the time that we need to talk about it. So so I guess a big thing for the commissioners here is, I guess overall we would like to go out and have a site visit first of all and review the property. And then let's see, we would like to see some of the wetland boundary reflagged so we have a good idea of where the wetland is in proximity to the proposed development. So that includes staking the 4 corners of the house, the well location, the end of the leach fields, where the proposed new pipe is, the drainage pipe. So evaluate watershed for. Yeah, is there any calculations? And that brings us to another point from Mike. Can you elaborate on Jacobson and the information they provided to us?
Sure. So
And I think that was one of his recommendations, is to provide some calculations for the crossing.
So there were 5 comments. One cites a section of the zoning regulations, which was essentially established. It establishes 150-foot no build zone from the
I'm searching for my,
from the Fenton.
I think that one.
And it was established after this lot received its initial approval. The second, so he's referencing that section of the regulations. Comment 2, drainage computations should be provided for the existing driveway crossing and its proposed extension. Computations for the sizing of the riprap outlet protection should be provided. He references a need for a formal drainage easement granted to the town of Willington for the existing head wall and piping that are located on the parcel, and rights to drain. There's a reference to section 4.21.03 of the zoning regulations, which states that all driveways shall have a width of at least 10 feet plus 2 feet. The proposed grading should be shown for the house lot to determine if additional clearing and or fill within the wetlands are required. Lastly, the inlet side of the existing driveway culvert should be extended to allow for proper sloping of the embankment. Additionally, the proposed riprap slope protection on the inlet side should be shown on the site plan. So those are from Joe Dillon, and I did share those with Mr. Woodis.
Yes, and these items are easily addressed. We actually have the drainage calculations already. They were done in 1997 for that application. So I actually have them in the file. You know, as far as the drainage easement, I mean, that's pretty typically what's done in modern times whenever there's any structures. And so we're proposing some new pipe there. There is an existing head wall that should also be within a drainage easement. We might as well, if we're going to be granting drainage easements for the structures, we might as well put a drainage easement for the swale that goes into the pipe, and make it just one continuous drainage easement from the edge of Moose Meadow Road all the way to the end of where the water is to be piped. I think that makes some sense. So we can certainly do that. The driveway, some of it is in excess of 14 feet wide, and some of it's only 10 feet wide currently on the site plan. So we'll modify that to show the 10-foot width with a 2-foot load-bearing shoulders, and we'll adjust the grading accordingly, particularly in the upstream side of the culvert, and show we call for riprap, but we'll actually depict it on the site plan. Those are all reasonable comments, and we can make those changes.
I'd like to ask a question about drainage easements and right to maintain. We're talking about easements from the perspective of granting the town an easement to deposit the water from the road onto the property, correct? We're not talking about a fee-owned easement. We're just talking about the right to do that, number one. Number two, I think that there should be limits to the town's obligation to maintain that drainage easement with respect to normal roadway drainage maintenance, and the owner's obligation to be diligent about ensuring that this culvert underneath the driveway at both ends is properly maintained. And it's my sentiment that the onus for that belongs on the owner of the property. And there's one thing. Now, there's also another drainage from the road more towards the south or downstream and the side of Bend River. It's depicted as wetlands on the property, and I highlighted it on my site plan. It appears from the site plan that head wall is actually on the right of way, but I'm not certain that would be the case. I think it would be appropriate to bring that into the maintenance and drainage easement issue as well. I don't see it as a big deal. It's an existing situation. It's just that I think the town needs the ability to do what might need to be done. Because I think that more southerly drainage has a greater tributary area than the watercourse or seasonal stream or whatever you care to call it that runs underneath the driveway. Does all that make sense? I hope.
Yeah, yes, it does to me. And I like that the onus is on the applicant to maintain, you know, whatever drainage way or pipe that they have well within their property, and that the town should not be obligated to do that. So it sounds to me like what we would be doing is creating two small drainage easements that would give the town the ability to maintain or replace or do whatever with the head walls that already exist at the outlet of those pipes. And then we would have a right to drain the surface water, you know, through the property in the location that it currently goes in both locations, and that would seem to make a lot of sense.
Okay, no, that's my sentiments.
Okay, I agree.
Bruce, how wide is the watercourse channel from the Moose Meadow Road to the head wall of the driveway? How wide is that?
It's between 15 to 20 feet wide.
The stream channel is 20 feet wide?
Oh, not the stream channel. I'm sorry. The wetlands as flagged are 15 to 20 feet wide. The channel itself is a very small, poorly defined ditch or swale that runs through there. I remember looking on the working.
How wide is that?
I would say it's probably about 6 feet wide, maybe.
So you're saying a 15-inch pipe is going to be able to carry a 6-foot wide stream channel in full flow?
Well, yes, that is correct.
Is that consistent with the stream crossing regulations, the 1-to-2 ratio that's recommended by the DEEP?
I beg your pardon. Can you say that again? I was looking at my working drawing, trying to.
Is that consistent with the stream crossing standards for Connecticut as recommended by the DEEP?
Yes, it is.
So
And
15 inches is 1.2 times 6 feet?
Well,
I'm
all right. So you asked me a question. I was going from memory. Let me look and see on the original working drawing here, if we're going to be discussing that type of detail and facts. 2 feet wide, 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide, 3 feet wide. So it's not 6 feet. I misspoke. I shouldn't have just generalized.
Okay.
Is that more satisfactory?
Because I'd like to see more of a natural flow, maybe a 3-sided box culvert instead of a 15-inch pipe that's going to direct flow and increase velocity, have more of a natural flow through that area, but then you're proposing to fill wetlands. So I guess we're going to move to that portion of this application and tell us a little bit about that and the justification. Did you come up with any alternatives for this development and this plan at all?
No. As I said, the wetlands that we're proposing to run the pipe through are not a significant wetlands, and although we are doing some filling of that channel, it doesn't seem like it's a terribly large impact. So if we were to rechannelize it, we would be creating almost the same amount of wetlands disturbance by grading and channelizing and then reseeding. It's not going to be that terribly different if we did that.
Well, what I'm asking is was there any other alternative? Because this looks like the exact same plan that came through in 1997, and that they may have approved it, but I mean, why fill that in? If you can get a box culvert over the driveway, you don't have to fill any wetlands, and there's free flow that comes right through there. You don't have to pipe it at all. There's just free flow water that comes in from the drainage underneath the driveway and into there. Plus you're in a flood zone, so that would allow for backflow back into the driveway and free flow without having to fill any wetlands, having to culvertize flow into a 15-inch pipe, which would have a high velocity coming out into this wetland system. So that's what I'm asking. Like, did you look at anything else but this plan, this system?
No, we went with, as you said, it's almost exactly the same plan as was approved in 1997. So we did not look at doing it another way at this time.
And I mean, if you presume to fill wetlands, I believe you would have to file an Army Corps general permit self-verification form for this. And I would ask for some mitigation. I would ask for some creation of wetland on the property.
Well, I think we're quite well under the threshold of Army Corps with the amount that we're talking about here.
I would recommend that you look at the Army Corps general permit for Connecticut. But I'm asking, there was no other alternative looked at for this application.
No, not at this time. No, we once again, this was all approved in 1997, and we tried to actually follow it as closely as possible because we knew that it was approved, and so we felt it would be approvable.
I think there's some different approaches that can be taken here. I just gave you an example of a three-sided box culvert over that wetland crossing there, and that would alleviate having you to fill wetlands. It would have to, it would allow for free drainage underneath the driveway. That's just my opinion. But
so
there's from what you said, there's no alternatives that have been analyzed for this application.
No. So I would ask you about the box culvert. I mean, we have an existing 15-inch RCP pipe under the driveway already. It's adequately sized. What would be the benefit of digging that up and replacing it with a box culvert?
Well, I think it would allow for free flow and would eliminate the filling of additional wetlands since that driveway is already established.
You mean put a box culvert in and not put additional pipe in is what you're
Correct.
talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
No additional pipe, no additional fill in a wetland area.
All right.
You already have the driveway. If you put a box culvert in there, I mean, all we're getting is this plan. We're not seeing any other sort of real details with erosion sediment controls, what you're using. This is all we have. And
well, we're proposing to use silt fence. Is that not adequate in your opinion?
it is, but I don't see a detail for that.
It's on sheet number 2.
I don't have sheet number 2.
This is why I think a site visit is in order here for us to see what we're actually dealing with. It's a challenging site, there's no doubt about that, particularly from the perspective of inland wetlands regulations. But I think to see what actually exists out there and to attempt to assess some value on those wetlands as they exist today may temper or exacerbate what the measures needed to properly allow that water to pass under the driveway and across the property.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ralph, and I think that's a more natural kind of pathway and a more natural approach instead of filling in wetland and piping water into the Fenton Ruby.
So the other thing I just want to jump in and say, in looking at the file, is that it does appear that the commission considered what looks to be 2 alternatives in 97. One pulled the house basically up by the road in the southerly corner of the property right by Moose Meadow. And the notes seem to indicate that that was not appropriate because it would have put the septic system immediately adjacent to the wetland. And then the other one looked at putting the house kind of closer to the side property line. But again, because that other wetland comes around from Moose Meadow Road, it was determined that it would have had a greater impact because it would have required what looks to be like a longer crossing. The other thing that they deal with, if you see, I'm sure you've seen on the plan, is that they're crossing. There's 2 different flood zone areas, and so look, the notes just indicate that that would have been a change to the impact as well. So those plans, I mean, we can certainly provide if you are interested in them, but it does look like that was considered back in 97 for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I assume the flood zone C is the wetland that comes up, because flood zone A is probably the bordering the Fenton Ruby, and then the flood zone C is probably the wetland boundary that water floods into.
Yeah, I mean, I see it on the plan. I can try to pull up a panel.
I mean, as far as this proposed plan, I mean, you got the stockpile right next to the wetland. Is there anywhere else we can put that? The loam stockpile? I mean, there's a lot going on here. A lot for us to digest and go over.
Well, I think sort of pulling this apart a little bit, there's a couple of things. Number one, if the commission wants to do a sidewalk, then you're obviously not issuing a decision tonight. And so the thing next to decide is, are you doing the sidewalk together, like we've talked about before? Because we need to know that date, because I need to notice that as a special meeting. Or is this something that you want to review, inspect independently? You've asked the applicant about doing some staking, and so obviously those things don't happen in a day or two. So how much you want staked and what you want staked will probably impact the timing, and we'd have to then schedule a special or whatever after that. So maybe we can start there, just so I can start thinking about that schedule if that's what you guys decide you want to do.
Are there any time limits that we're dealing with?
It would have to be before the next meeting, correct?
It wouldn't have to be. I mean, ideally that would be what you'd want, so that you could to leave this meeting knowing if there would be a site walk scheduled so that you could do that review and then come back to the next meeting having had that take place. So I think that would be the ideal solution.
And I guess, I mean, from what's been expressed and what's been discussed now from the applicant, would they want to, what would happen? They'd have to withdraw the application, come up with some alternatives and maybe some new design plans and then refile? Or how would that all work if they decided to do that?
So they wouldn't need to withdraw. They could be prepared at the next meeting to present to you alternatives based upon your suggestions or why your alternative suggestions aren't feasible. And then you would have to make the, evaluate that and say, okay, we told you to consider X, you considered X, your rationale for X makes sense. We agree it's not feasible or not. So I mean, I think that, there's some of those things that can be done between now and the next meeting. I don't want to speak for the applicant, but we don't have any statutory constraints which would require that they withdraw.
If I may, would it be feasible to explore revisions or changes based on the comments tonight, make modifications, resubmit them to you in time for a commission site walk, and then have new plans available to the commissioners, prior to the site walk, but so that they could see them, but then have them with them on the site walk? Does that make some sense?
Yeah, and I just don't want us to give you the alternatives. It's your job to present something like feasible. So if I'm saying, I really don't want to see a bunch of wetland fill and a pipe here, this may be a better alternative. That's for you to decide and to evaluate and present to us.
Right. I understand how it works.
So I guess before the site walk, I think we would like to see that leading edge of the wetland boundary reflagged, so we have a good understanding, maybe from, what were you suggesting, Ralph, from wetland flag 7 through maybe 16, 18?
It's
Something
basically
the leading edge.
The flags around the dry, or the dry area of the site, and the drainage channel, seasonal stream, whatever you want to call the water course towards the northern side of the property that comes from underneath Moose Meadow Road. Just because we have wetland soils there that are 20 feet wide doesn't necessarily mean that we need 20 feet worth of water flow capacity. So, and this is why I really want for us to walk the site to get a better feel of the value of the wetlands and the impact that building a single family home is going to impose.
I guess another question too, is there a conservation easement on this property?
No.
Mike, have we checked the deeds and records for that?
So the map they provided is a survey, so that would be part of that. It's not part of a subdivision or any other plan that we have record of, that it would be shown a different way. I haven't done a title search, but we don't have anything to suggest that there's a conservation easement on the property. And there's nothing contemplated in any of the previous approvals that suggests it.
What makes you ask that question?
Well, I just asked because in the map references, the septic design was from 1997. You said this is an updated septic design, and it says subdivision plan provided for whole forest products in 1982. So I just wanted to ask. That's all.
Okay. The answer is no.
Okay. So I guess the next meeting would be
August 26th.
26. So I guess from the applicant, what would you need to have the wetland boundary reflagged and I guess provide any alternatives or relook at, you know, the property? I don't know. I'd like to hear from some other commissioners instead of me just kind of talking here.
Hey, are you asking for me to respond or commissioners to respond? It sounds like you're asking for two different things.
I think he's asking for us to respond.
Okay.
I mean, that if we put a date of the 17th, that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks to have a wetland scientist or professional soil scientist to go out and reflag the wetlands. And for you to, is that reasonable?
Well,
Just like to have a discussion about it.
there might be another option. Since the wetlands flags were accurately located, we can resurvey their locations and reflag what you see here on the property, unless you feel that it should be reflagged again by a different soil scientist.
No, I think that'd be sufficient enough.
Okay, so we have either option. At any rate, either one obviously takes time. The 17th is, what did you say, 3 to 4 weeks from now?
That's about 4 weeks.
And we're talking that is the date of the next regularly scheduled wetlands meeting or a date of a site walk?
That would be a potential date of a site walk.
Okay.
So works for the rest of the commissioners.
It's a fair amount of work to be done. You know, the surveying part is, you know, we're very busy. It's a good thing. But I certainly believe that we could get it done in that amount of time. So you want to see essentially the improvement state, the house, the septic, the well, and you want the wetlands.
Yeah, just the leading edge, say like from 16 to 7. I'm sure it's pretty evident because that's a floodplain to the.
Yeah, from 7 to 4 is the edge of the large swamp that the Fenton River goes through. But from 7, 8, 9, 11, 12.
I'm sure it's pretty evident, you know, it's probably telltale of probably topographic change.
Yeah.
Probably pretty visible. So
Yeah, less evident along 7, 8, 9, and 10 and 11. But as I said, we located them accurately, so we can reproduce their location again in the field.
okay.
That can be done in time for that. And I just simply need to have time for my engineer to re-review, you know, what we've done or redone and look at, you know, potential alternatives. And if so, do some additional design work for them.
Yeah, keep in mind, you know, maybe an appropriate, you know, culverty type thing. Limit, you know, alternatives. Limit as much wetland impact as you can, because you know anything under, I think it's under 5,000 square feet of wetland, temporary or permanent, does require a self-verification notification form to the Army Corps of Engineers for the project.
Right. Yeah, we're only about half of that.
Well, anything below that, any sort of fill, I mean, that's a water of the US. So you might want to look into that too. But there's alternatives here. Like if you put in a box culvert, that eliminates all of that, because that's an existing driveway and the critters can move through there. So the purpose of a stream crossing like that or a wetland crossing is allows for wildlife movement, hydraulic movement, so you're not getting a bunch of leaves and sticks caught in that 15-inch pipe. Things can move through there naturally in and out of the wetland and watercourse system, including amphibians. And that brings me to a second point. This is in an NDDB, natural diversity database area. So I'm not sure if you've looked at that and following with the Connecticut Deep NDDB program, but I would recommend that as well.
Okay. What I'd like to ask the commission to do is to schedule an actual, commission site walk, as opposed to going out and looking at it individually. If we did it that way, I could have our engineer available for the walk. So if there's any discussion, about engineering practice or alternatives or any of the things that we're proposing to do, he would be available to discuss that.
Sure, I'm available on the 17th.
17th is a what day?
Another
Saturday.
Monday.
It's what?
It's another Monday.
17th of August is a Saturday.
Yes.
Okay,
And that's about
right.
a week or so before the next meeting. So that's about 4 weeks from today. Bruce said that would give them, I guess, sufficient time to go out and resurvey these areas that the commission asked for and come up with some alternatives, or even talk with the engineer face to face on site and just have an open discussion of what we're thinking, and what they think, most importantly, of what to do here.
Yeah, it looks like that Saturday would work for me.
Okay.
I'm
Ralph, David, Mark.
I think so.
I think I'm free.
Okay.
I'll make time.
About what time do you want to do it?
Usually around like 9 o'clock. Allows people to get up, drink their 4 cups of coffee, and get ready to go.
9 o'clock is quite fine.
Yeah, I could be fully caffeinated by then.
All right. You start at what, 4 a.m., Ralph?
Yeah. No, I go to bed at 2 a.m.
Okay. So tentatively, we're scheduling it for Saturday, the 17th at 9 a.m.
We probably should think about a rain date just in case.
No.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
I'd have to look into the.
I mean, I'd opt for Sunday, but that's asking a lot of other people.
Let me see what my other obligations are.
I'll bring my spray can of DEET.
Now we do have significant daylight these days. I mean, could do something.
Some evening,
Yeah,
late afternoon.
even a Friday, the Friday the 16th or something like that.
Even I am free that Sunday, but well, why don't we do the 17th and potential rain date for that Friday? I could probably do 6 o'clock, which I think we'll probably still have enough time.
Okay,
I don't think we've lost too much daylight by then.
No.
no.
No, I think 6 o'clock would be okay. So we're saying that the day before will be our rain date.
Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
kind of backwards, but yeah.
So, all right. So you're telling me we're gonna trust the weatherman?
Hey,
Yep.
like Bob Dylan said, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I'll put that in there and we'll.
So can I just clarify, the purpose of the site visit will be to basically look at the plan, look at what's in the field. It really is for limited discussion. The discussion about the application, questions that you have, debating the alternatives, all those things are gonna have to happen at the meeting on the 26th. So two reasons that's important. Number one, if the commission members want to have discussions about the application, then it needs to be treated as a full-blown meeting, which means we're going to have to take minutes and record it and do the whole 9 yards. And also, we need to make members of the public aware, and they are free to attend. If that's the intent, that's sort of discouraged because it's procedurally a really complicated thing. Number two, the only thing that you should keep in mind is if that's what we're going to do and you're going to have that meeting on the 17th, that basically means you're going to have to memorialize everything that you've seen and push pause until we come together on the 26th. So there will be a chunk of time in between when you do those two things. But your review of everything and questions and answers and all that stuff has to happen during the meeting, not while you're on site.
Correct.
Just make sure you're comfortable with either making notes or keeping that in your mind so that it'll be about 12, 13 days later. Well, maybe not quite that many times.
So we can't ask questions of the engineer?
It really should be for you to orient yourself to the site and get a better sense of how the site is laid out and how the site plan has been prepared. Asking questions and getting into a dialogue is really for the meeting.
Right.
It would, like I said, we'd have to record it. We'd have to have meeting minutes and all of those things.
Can I comment on that, if that's okay? My experience with planning and zoning has been, we basically call them a silent sidewalk. If you need to ask the applicant to orient yourself as to where you are relative to the plan, that's okay. If you have an issue with something that you want to discuss, point out the specific area when you're in the field, but don't discuss it and bring it up at the meeting that would follow.
Okay.
That's the way we would handle it for planning and zoning.
Okay.
Not to get into a two-way exchange on the site. But if there's specific things that you want to address during that meeting, we would, we're free to point them out when we're out there, but no discussion would ensue.
Do you understand that, Bruce?
I do. So my necessity of having the meeting scheduled for our engineer to participate is probably not going to be necessary to have him on site if there's not going to be any significant discussion.
Correct.
As long as somebody can make sure we're looking at the right stake in the right place.
Right. Is that the front corner of the house? Is that wetlands flag 17 over there? What am I looking at? Yeah. Okay. We can do that.
And so the only other thing that I would suggest you consider is maybe you want to move, I guess the rain date. You could consider an alternative to be an hour and a half before the meeting. Meet out on the site, have a site walk, and do your review, come right, then an hour later you go right into the meeting, it's fresh. I understand we don't want to put all our eggs in that basket if it's going to rain, but maybe you schedule your backup rain date to be
The
the date
26th.
of this meeting, the 26th.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
If there are any alternatives suggested by the engineer, I think we need to have it in our hands at that point. At the site visit, so that we can relate the suggestions to the site.
Well, I guess to Mike's point is that would be part of the application and a decision for us. So I think the burden is always on the applicant. The burden is on the applicant to present their project, any alternatives for us to evaluate, and what are you going to do to better the wetland? Like right now you're filling it with no other alternative, like nothing else was thought of except to put in a pipe and fill in a wetland. Like there's nothing else. So the burden is on the applicant to present to us the project and what they're going to do if they are filling a wetland to maybe compensate, mitigate, or find an alternative to not fill in the wetland. The burden's always on the applicant, I feel.
That's the way I understand it as well. So my goal will be to have whatever revisions that we're going to do in your hands a solid week prior to the sidewalk, so that I'll get them to Michael and he can distribute them to all of you. So you'll have some time to have eyes on the plans before you go out and see the site. I think that would be beneficial to everyone. So that's what I would be trying to accomplish.
Fine.
Is that acceptable, Mike?
Yeah, and I think the benefit is if for some reason something changes, your backup date isn't, you're in double trouble because your backup date is ahead of your first date. So if there's a problem with anything, or he says, "Oh, I want to look
that's
at
true.
this,"
Yeah.
it gives him an extra week to prepare those alternatives or figure out what he's got to do, so that we're not, all screwed up for our next meeting in August. So I'll get those out as soon as we get them.
Okay. I'm thinking that the engineering aspects of it will be less of a challenge time-wise than getting out to do the field staking and surveying. That's going to be more of a challenge, but we should be able to accomplish both in a timely fashion.
How is the understory in that area?
Well, I haven't been out there since winter, but it was pretty thick in places, and then in other places not so much.
Are we dealing with a lot of mountain laurel or very little?
No, this site is different than that. This is on the right-hand side of the site near the property line. It's
I don't know if I can chime in.
What's that?
This is Jim, Florence's
Oh.
boyfriend.
Okay.
Most of the brush has been cleared from the site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys should have no trouble walking around and seeing, exactly, it's not thick anymore. Not where we're planning on building.
Okay, very good. Yeah, it was a bit brushy on the southerly side of the
Yeah, when you were there, you couldn't even walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty thick.
Yeah. No,
There was pickers and briars and
the briars have all been mostly removed.
Oh, good. Well, that'll make it a lot easier for us. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it probably sounds like a lot of barberry, multiflora rose, bunch of probably invasives around there. So
Yeah.
all right. So do you have everything you need from us, Bruce?
I believe I do.
Okay.
I've made some notes, and I'll meet with my engineer in a few days, and I'll explain to him what's been discussed. We may end up going out there, taking another look at it. The original engineering was done by Terry Chambers, my former partner, who died in 2013. So, and he's the one that handled this project. So any knowledge of alternatives or the reasoning why it was designed in the manner that it's designed are lost with him. And so unfortunately, I've gone through the files, looked through all the notes, and haven't seen any details of the particular discussions with the commissions. I don't know if anybody has, if Mr. D'Amato researched the minutes from the approvals at that time. But I know that I don't have any specifics in the file as to why it was designed in this fashion to culvert it and to fill that section of wetlands.
I don't know if we have, minutes going back that far, and would it be upstairs if we still had them with the town clerk. I did send you a few minutes ago, I emailed you a link to the property file, which if you get down to the bottom, you'll see the maps marked alternative 1 with the description and alternative 2 that you guys or your partner would have prepared. So I sent you that link a few minutes ago. You'll at least have that.
Oh, good. Thank you for that. I did
Well-
not find that in my files, any copies of that.
Yeah, so our property files are scanned. So if you go onto the GIS, you can click on a property and you'll see all the files. So we have about 75 pages for this property.
Oh,
A lot
wow.
of it is unnecessary stuff, but towards the bottom, you'll see the plans. They're marked alternatives. And if you look, you'll see the little sketch. And there's some language there that kind of talks about why whomever wrote it said it, in their opinion, at least, it wasn't prudent. So you should have that.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, so out of the 8 acres of the property, there's not much upland on the property to
No.
deal with. Maybe that's
No,
why.
unfortunately not.
All right, so we'll have a site walk on the 17th, and then if you want to get us any information beforehand, that's great. If not, we'll have the rain date. Like 5 o'clock that Monday? Probably
coming.
something like that. Can we make that decision later on, Mike, or we need to do that now?
Best to do it now, but I think just having the date is fine. So
Okay.
we're going to shoot for the 17th as number 1 and the 26th as a backup.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
right, well-
it's not a terribly large site. I wouldn't think that we would need more than an hour.
I would agree.
Yeah, so 6 o'clock perhaps would probably be ample time.
Okay.
I'm thinking, but you folks can set that time and just let me know.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Bruce. So do I have a motion do we have to table this now to the next meeting, Mike?
Just continue it.
All right. Is there a motion to continue inland wetlands application IW 24-6, construction of a single family dwelling with a wetland disturbance at 85 Moose Meadow Road, map block lot 26-004-0A, owner applicant F. McNutt.
It sounded like a motion.
Well, continue it.
If you
Well,
want,
is that how I'm supposed to do it, Ralph? I don't know. It seems like you
no,
want
it
to be.
sounded very good.
Sounds like you want to be co-chair now.
No.
Well, yes, I think you're making a motion to take over.
No,
So moved. Say so moved.
So move.
I'll second it. No problem.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Right
Bruce.
now.
Look
Thank you,
forward to working
Bruce.
with you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on the 17th.
Very good.
All right.
Thanks. All right, next order of business, old business. Doesn't look like we have anything on the agenda for that. Next is correspondence, staff report, and discussion.
Don't have any correspondence. We have one wetland issue, potential violation that we started to deal with today. So depending on how that goes,
Okay.
you may see it in front of you at a subsequent meeting, because if we have to issue an order, I have to give them the 10-day notice for you guys to hold a show cause hearing. So if they are unresponsive to the informal notification, we'll issue an order and it will come before you. You'll get all those details. If we have to go that route, we're hoping we don't, but that may be coming.
Is there anything you can share with us now, or that's not the way it goes?
I can, yeah, I can give you the address, which is it is 17 Mason.
But we can't
So-
can't talk about anything else about what's going on.
I'm maybe being paranoid or not, but it's if we have to issue an order, statute requires that we provide them with an opportunity to show cause to the commission. I'm somewhat, I don't know, I sort of feel like we're headed in that direction, so it would be easier if there was no discussion prior to that property owner coming before you. I really hope that it doesn't go to that, but it seems like that may be where it's headed.
I hope not either. Is that all from staff?
That's all I have at this point. We had one follow-up comment from Deep regarding the forestry regs. We didn't have a specific note in there regarding charging or not charging of the state fees. So we don't charge the land use application fee that the state requires for those. And so they wanted us to clarify that in our regs. So we added that note, but otherwise those are good to go. And that's about it.
Is that because we charge our own fee?
Or
that's like an additional fee, like the inland wetlands application fee?
The state requires that every single land use application we charge $60. We keep $2 as a processing fee. They call it. We give them 58. Apparently, because of the way the statutes are written, you can't and don't charge that for a forestry activity. So they wanted us to be just to clarify that in the fee schedule. So that was it.
Seems like an easy fix.
It was. Yep, that's all set.
Next on the agenda is public comment. I see we have Mr. Demers.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Kathy Demers.
Good evening, Kathy.
48 Mason Road. Good evening, Patrick. Couple of things. One is I just wanted to ask, and maybe Mike can be helpful with this as well. On the town's GIS system, if you click on the layers map and you click on surface waters, it is showing the larger river systems and streams like the Fenton, Roaring Brook, Curtis Brook, and so on. But it doesn't seem to show the smaller streams, even if they are perennial. And I'm just wondering if there's a way for us to be able to add that to our GIS system, because it's very helpful when we're reviewing properties, whether for potential open space or if there's an application about a property, if there's some way to add that to the GIS system under our layers. Can
I just speak to that for a little bit, Kathy?
Yeah.
So there are some other web applications out there. The USGS, it's called StreamStats.
Okay.
Have you looked at Connecticut Eco?
No, but we certainly can.
So Connecticut Eco, that's run out through UConn. That's their like GIS, and it has all the NDDB and critical habitats and other things like that. Let me just look. Water resources. And I mean, a lot of times streams aren't mapped, right? So a lot of times I find myself in a situation where I'm reviewing a property and, there's obviously a stream there, but it's not mapped on a USGS or on any other sort of mapping system. So, but StreamStats is really good.
Okay. All right.
So that might be something.
Yeah. Are these layers that we can somehow get added to our GIS system so that anybody that's on a board or, commission can also, look just to our GIS site to find this information?
I'm not sure if I could give you the correct answer for that. So
if it's a layer service that's free and the data is available, we usually can link to it. There's a few like the public water systems and a couple of others that we have linked to directly just by asking our GIS vendor to link to that data source. So if they offer it and it's available for us to basically link to, then it's possible.
Okay.
But a lot of times streams just aren't mapped because a lot of times there's so many of them and a lot of them are intermittent. But
Mhm.
our regulations regulate intermittent, perennial, what have you. They just might not be on a computer map.
Mhm. And then a couple of other things. Regarding conservation easements that might be part of conditions from inlet wetlands, for example, I'm just wondering if we have any clear, not ordinances, but regulations, and how do we enforce our conservation easements in town? So if somebody violates a conservation easement, what steps are taken depending on which of the boards may have required the conservation easement? If we can think about that going forward, because it's not, I don't think it's clear what our steps would be. Who do we, who's the enforcer and what are the steps that are taken?
So my thought is are you asking if it was part of like a inland wetlands application? I mean, in our regulations, I don't know if we can prescribe them to put a conservation easement on their property.
Well, I know there's one case because there was an issue with a property on Lushon Road, and there had been a conservation easement placed on that. It was pretty much a condition at the time of inland wetlands. So if there's a violation, if we're aware that there's a violation of that conservation easement, what are the next steps? I think it's something planning and zoning needs to think about as well. Who would be the person representing the town that would be involved with notifying the person that was violating the easement, as well as what would next steps be? And maybe we need to have some clear regulation, not regulations, but process in place that we would follow. I know that planning and zoning is looking into potential ordinances about fines for people that are violating zoning regulations. So it's just something I'm bringing up, with inland wetlands as well.
Well, I would think who's the owner of the easement?
The town. So this would be if the town is the.
But who in the town? I guess what entity, what board, or what is it, the selectmen?
That's a very good question. So when a conservation easement is placed on a property or a portion of a property, the easement is given to the town of Willington, but which board is responsible for following up on some type of a violation? So if somebody's not supposed to be building, cutting, doing other things within that easement and they violate that, what are the next steps? I don't think we have a clear process for that.
Because you would have to have some sort of regulatory authority to enforce something like that.
Right.
So the Conservation Commission doesn't have like a regulatory authority.
No. And we don't place easements on properties. The only time we get involved with that is perhaps recommending, that an easement be placed, or when the town purchases open space, then the town does put a conservation easement on the whole property so that the town itself cannot develop it or do other things with it, except for, passive recreation and so on. But there are properties in town that belong to other people, to private residents, or, property owners, private property owners that have easements on them, and they would need to come before the town if the easement is with the town to request to do something on that easement. For example, the timber harvest on Wilford Farms a few months ago, there's a conservation easement on a portion of that property. They had to approach the town to see if they could do some timber harvesting on the easement portion. So the question is, if someone violates the conditions of an easement and the easement is held by the town, what is the town's recourse?
I think we've talked about this with the town attorney before, and I think it depends on the language of the easement. The town hasn't had consistent language with how the easements are granted and who they were granted to over the years. The only thing that would potentially kick it down and provide for some land use enforcement off the top of my head would be if there was also a violation of a potential approval, land use approval, subdivision approval that that easement was tied to. But I think similar to why the Board of Selectmen was the authority that granted Wilford Farms encroachment, I think it's they represent the town. So I think it would have to come from someone on behalf of probably Peter. I don't think any one board has the authority to take action against that unless it is in violation of a subdivision approval or something else. So we'd have to look at it on I probably have the information from Heller and Sage that said what their recommendation was, but I'd have to look.
I think the only way we could come in is if there was, because I don't think our inland wetlands regulates conservation easements. It'd have to be like a violation of some sort on if it was more an application. I mean, how would that work if like they came in with an application and there was a conservation easement on it? How would I mean, we have authority over the like forestry and wetlands. We don't have authority over a conservation easement. So we'd have to work with other boards and commissions in town.
Right. Well, there, again, I was just giving you an example. There was a conservation easement that was a condition that inland wetlands had put on a property years ago, and on Lushon Road. And for example, there was a potential for that somebody to have been cutting in that area, taking trees down without permission from the town. So the question was, which board, because the easement was originally conditioned by inland wetlands, would that be the board that would look into this? Would it be, like you said, the selectmen? So, I mean, it's just not clear. As Mike said, it sounds like there was some opinion given by the attorney, but it'd be nice if we had some kind of written process so it wasn't such a scramble, in the future.
Would not part of that be affected by the language in the conservation easement? If you were to require a conservation easement on some particular portion of the original parcel that was subdivided, wouldn't you want to list the restrictions within that easement at the time that it's established? And if you simply have something on record that there's a conservation easement with no explanation as to what you can and can't do with it, other than you can't build on it, that makes it a lot more difficult to enact any kind of enforcement.
You'd have to look at, as you said, some of the easements are more specific about what you can and can't do. Some are very general, but the questions, if there's some specific conditions like, no timber harvesting, has to be left in a natural state, exactly. And somebody violates that or puts in some ATV trails or whatever, who in town should be contacting the landowner to tell them that they're violating the conservation easement? And then, what are the steps we take from there? It's just kind of a hypothetical in some senses. Do we need a process, or are we just going to wait and handle it in each case?
A parallel situation is when related to our work is, suppose somebody starts dumping land into a wetland. And that falls within our purview, but do we bring the action against the people to correct that, or does that go to the selectmen?
In that case, that would be through me.
Yeah.
Enforcement
we
on
have,
behalf of you.
Yeah, we'd have regulatory authority over the wetlands in town.
So that's a violation of a wetlands regulation versus an easement.
Correct.
Yeah. Mhm.
By statute.
Right. Yep. So just bringing this up as, food for thought, as especially as planning and zoning is moving forward to look at potential ordinances about fines, for people that are violating zoning regulations and things like that, as just a way of encouraging, people to take heed to the letters they get about cease and desist. So I know that's, something that's coming up. And if we could think about whether or not we need to do something similar around conservation easements, would be helpful.
Well, that's certainly good input.
Okay.
And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, last time you met, we talked about the e-alerts and getting the agenda and the minutes automatically through e-alerts. I can tell you I'm still not getting them automatically. So I don't know if other people are having that same problem still.
I don't have that problem. I get emails from Peggy.
Yeah, well, that's because you're a commission member. There are other minutes and agendas that don't get pushed out through the system that Kathy's talking about that should. And I've missed some agendas that they don't get pushed out. I get planning and zonings because I signed up for the specific notice requirements. Mike, you know what that deal is, where you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not the e-alert system that the town has. It's something different.
No, but if you go on the homepage of the town website, it calls it e-alerts, and then you open it up and you can subscribe to any of the boards and commissions to get their minutes, their agendas. And I mean, I've been signed up for many years and was always getting them automatically for inland wetlands, but that is no longer happening. So I don't know where the problem is, if I should go back in and sign up all over again for all the ones I want, or.
Have you talked with Tish Ignatowski about this?
No, I brought it up at the last meeting that we had, your last meeting. And I think Mike said there was some problem that he was going to look into. So I don't know if that's been rectified, and maybe I should move on to asking someone else, or.
So every time a document is posted on the town website, no matter what the group is, whether it's an agenda, minute, legal notice, no matter what board it is, the person posting it has to manually go into the system and verify that the e-subscriber notification has not been turned off. And if that box is not checked, then it gets posted online, but those subscribing to that specific type for that agenda or whatever, it won't go out. And so I've just started looking through to see, and looking at just random ones, and the box is checked. I mean, but it's not checked for all of them. And it's a manual process that has to be verified. And we typically will do sort of a double check to make sure. I know I always look at it because I'm also double checking that the links are active for things like Zoom. But, it's not a perfect science. That's the only thing I can see there, because there's nothing else that would be preventing it. We had an issue last week with, like a lot of towns, with where there's a Civic Plus was down, and a lot of other town websites were down, but there's no other systemic issue that I can see, and everything else is set up exactly the same.
Okay. So what would be your suggestion, Mike, then? Because if I'm not getting them, there may be other people that have signed up that aren't getting them. So.
Yeah, if you're not getting them, then anybody who's subscribed on the e-alert isn't isn't going to get them. It's like I said, it's just a manual thing, but the only thing you could let us know what the last one was that you got, and we could, I could look to see if you're not getting ones that are checked off as having been subscribed, but our internal process is the same for every single board and commission. So we could look to see if there's something different about it, or if you haven't gotten them and the subscribe has been turned on, but yeah, there's not, it's just it's a manual thing that we just have to do. So, obviously we've missed them and we need to make sure that we're not.
Okay, so can you clarify? Am I understanding you to say that there's something that you have to do on your side when you post the agendas and minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
do you feel that you guys have been doing everything that you normally would do and that it's a system problem, or is it something that somebody on your side is forgetting to do when they post?
I don't know if there's an issue with the system or not, because I don't see them subscribed. But what I can tell you is, if you're getting some and not all, that tells me that it's just a matter of not verifying that the subscription box is checked when it's being submitted, which is a user issue, a staff user issue, not a website problem.
Okay, so I think this can be resolved outside of normal
Okay.
business here.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything else, Kathy?
No, thank you very much.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but maybe give the town hall a call during business hours and they can sort it out.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, where's my good friend Mark? We haven't heard from you tonight.
I said
You're up?
hello.
Oh, okay. Well, besides that, you're next on the agenda.
Oh, all right. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting for July 22nd, 2024.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully everyone can make it on the 17th there. Hope to see you guys. Take a look at that property and we'll figure it out.
Great.
Very good.